Oleksandr Gvozdyk apparently suffered a mild concussion in his fight against Artur Beterbiev. He spent 2 nights in hospital under observation as a precautionary measure because he said he felt pain in the back of his head. He was hit with several rabbit punches by Beterbiev in their fight. You know, I'm really wondering at this point, and I'm sure other people were wondering even before now, but personally, I'm wondering at this point whether the Stevenson fight and the recent tragedy with Patrick Day, whether they were in Gvozdyk's head going into this Beterbiev fight. Because if you're carrying that in your head, and what I mean by that is, this could happen to me. If that's what you're carrying in your head going into a fight, you're 1-0 down before the game's even started. Because so much of boxing is psychological. If you're going in there and you're worried about what's happened, you know, what you did to one of your previous opponents, thinking, oh God, that could happen to me, or what happened to Patrick Day, you're actually putting yourself at greater risk, in my opinion. I know he receives a lot of criticism and a lot of justifiable criticism, but Chris Eubank Jr., when he hospitalized Nick Blackwell, and thankfully Nick Blackwell has recovered, but when he hospitalized Nick Blackwell, in the aftermath of that, he said that far from becoming gun shy, like his dad did after he seriously injured Michael Watson, far from doing that, he's going to do the opposite. He's going to go even harder. He's going to be even more vicious and even more ruthless in the ring. And by doing so, he's actually going to protect himself. Sometimes offense is the best form of defense. That's the kind of mentality you have to have if you want to continue in this sport. If you've hurt a guy, you have to be even more vicious, because if it's not him that it happens to, it could be you. Yeah, it's that kind of sport. It's brutal. It's horrible. Obviously, as fans, we don't want to see any fighter end up seriously injured or dead. That's why we have doctors and referees and commissioners, cornermen, etc., to prevent fighters as much as we can from ending up like that. But occasionally it will happen. And if you're a fighter going into the ring, you can't have the thought of it happening to you in your head. You know, you have to be fully focused on winning the fight and damaging the other guy. I don't mean permanently damaging. I just mean knocking him out, winning on points, doing whatever you have to do to win. You can't have any doubts in your head. Yeah, you have to go extra hard, be even more aggressive in your mentality. Not necessarily go all out swinging and wasting energy, but in your mentality, be even more aggressive and even more assertive, and make sure that for your next fight, that jab's even harder and crisper and faster and more accurate. You understand? Because you understand that it's a high stakes game that you're playing. You know? Was Gvozdyk disturbed by what happened to Stevenson and what happened to Patrick Day? Did that take away from his performance? Maybe it didn't. All right. But the fact that he wanted to go, I guess he complained about, pain in the back of his head or whatever. Maybe he was paranoid, thinking, God, is something happening to me here? Because concussions in boxing are like, a sprained ankle in football. It's an everyday occurrence in boxing. People get concussions. I've had concussions several times from sparring over the years. People think a concussion means you got knocked out. No, you can get concussions without getting knocked out. Plenty of times you have a tough spar. We get hit with some big shots over the course of, however many rounds you're going to do. And after the spar, you got a headache. And sometimes you can wake up the next day, you still got a headache. And in all likelihood, you've got a concussion. That's why you've got a headache. You might not have been clinically diagnosed and had a scan and 100% confirmed it was a concussion, but more often than not, that's what it is. Those are the symptoms. I remember years ago after a particularly hard spar, I went to the, my nose was bleeding, and I went to the, the showers and the toilet area to wash up afterwards. And I reached for the tap, and I kept missing the tap. Like the first couple times I reached for the tap, I missed the tap a couple times because my head was still buzzing from being in that sparring session. His head was still buzzing as well. I actually dropped him with a jab in that sparring session, believe it or not. But yeah, I remember reaching for I couldn't. First couple times I tried to reach for the tap, I missed it. And the third time I got the tap, I was like, gee, what's going on? I had to slap myself and splash some cold water in my face. I was still disorientated. Now, I didn't actually get a headache from that, but there were other, sparring sessions. I remember one sparring session I had where I had a headache the next day and my jaw was aching terribly because I'd taken so many hard shots on the jaw that my jaw was just killing me. I hadn't hurt it or, I hadn't broken it or anything, but I guess maybe, I don't know what could have gone on in there, sprained the ligaments or pulled the muscles in my jaw. I don't know what it was, but yeah, boxing is a brutal sport and getting something like a concussion is very, very common. So obviously you want to go and get checked out in hospital, especially if you've been stopped. In fact, it's usually a standard procedure when you've been stopped. But I don't know, I just get the suspicion, I just have the suspicion that maybe Gvozdyk was a little paranoid when he felt a bit of a pain in the back of his head. And it's always better to be safe than sorry. I'm not criticizing Gvozdyk, for trying to be better safe than sorry, but I do wonder whether he was carrying those doubts in his head going into the fight, those worries in his head. Yeah, you can't carry that kind of thing into your head going into a fight. You have to be 100% confident that you're going to come out on top. And any fears that you might have, you have to channel that into your punches, in training and in the fight, and be 100% confident that when your punches land, you're the one who's going to be scoring the knockout. You're the one who's going to be giving the other guy a concussion, not the other way around. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. It's happening. I'm out.